Hi, we are live. Hello from Hamburg. Did you sail this week? How are you doing? I'm back. I don't have a crying baby with me this time. We're going to finish the stream. We're going to get through everything that was posted this week and last week. So we've got a lot to go through. It's cold in Hamburg. Is it cold where you are? Is it too cold to get on the water? Are you getting on the water? Are you windsurfing? I think it's kind of windy around me here, but it's too cold for me these days. So I'm having some family time. It was my son's birthday today. And planning to go to Maui early January. But I haven't been getting on the water, though I've been using that time to work on some other coaching things. And there's some big changes coming in the new year. The Facebook group, all that stuff staying the same, live streams, all that stuff is staying the same. So you don't have to worry, but there's some cool things coming. The Patreon, thank you everyone who is supporting these live streams through Patreon. Thank you. I'll just read through the list. Of names, excuse me. Kåre, Christopher, Axel, Greg, Sam, John, Tomasz, Laura, Matthias, Fritz, Nick, Samuli, Steen, Christophe, David, Dom, Dennis, Mario, Cedric, Ragnar, Matt, Jörg, Tomasz, Jürg, Evgeny, and Eric. Thank you, all of you, for supporting. But there are going to be some big changes to the Patreon. I haven't done a post recently, though I've got some posts I've been working on because I'm going to be doing some big changes. Pretty much I'm going to shut down the Patreon and we're going to transfer to a different platform where I'm hoping that I can provide a lot more value for the people who are subscribing and supporting the stream that way. Patreon was an experiment. All of these things. Also, if you followed the live coaching from the beginning, we've jumped from platform to platform as we've evolved, trying to figure out the best system for you guys to get the best windsurfing coaching. My goal when I started this was just to help people, reach out to people. And I had this vision of so many windsurfers around the world sitting on this plateau, and I want to help get people off the plateau. And okay, we started on Instagram, we moved to Facebook, we moved to YouTube. We're doing all these different things, launched the Facebook group, and it's all been great. The Patreon was a great learning experience. The next step is a more dedicated community. What I miss in the Patreon is some extra discussion, and I want to link it more with the courses that I'm doing, the online courses. And so the idea is to set up a platform where I can host the online courses. So for example, the tacking course, the Vulcan course, which will be coming. I've been working on that, probably coming in January. But so we can all live in the same place, along with the articles that I write for the newsletter and everything else. And we can have some more discussion. Anyway, enough about that. Let me check the chat, see who's here. Tomasz, we got someone on Facebook, Jörg, Hans, hello Hans. Visant tomorrow with 10 degrees. Rasmus, John, Oguz, Matt, Manuel, Axel, Eric, Ragnar. Negative 17 degrees where Ragnar is. That's cold. Nicholas, how's the wind, Nicholas? Thomas, Svensson, low pressure coming. Eric got a session in today, 3 degrees. What were you working on? Eric's been very active in our coaching groups and different things. Eric, what were you working on? Hey, Dom. All right, I'm gonna load up the Facebook group. Can you guys hear? Is this too loud? I'm sitting on a ball, like one of these inflatable balls. Is that too loud when I move around on it? Let me know in the chat if it is. And I'm gonna load up the Facebook group. All right, Facebook group. Let's load it up. We got a lot to go through too, because we missed last week because my wife was in the south of Germany working on her charity. and I had the kids, and the little one was asleep until 5 minutes before the live stream was supposed to start, and then crying his head off. So we missed last week. So we've got 2 weeks of content to go through. Nicolas says tomorrow and tomorrow after, they've got 35 to 40 knots. That is a lot of wind. Do you get waves when it's like that? You must get waves. For those of you who don't know, Nicolas is in Greece, and I want to know if you get waves. Do you get waves with 35 knots of wind? You must get waves. All right, let's just jump into this Facebook group. Get myself oriented. After not doing this for a week, I have to kind of remember how to do it. Axel saying, hit it. That's an inside joke from the coaching we did in Denmark, the masterclass in Denmark. Hit it. Pretty much hit it is always what you should be saying to yourself. And it was what I was saying to Nicolas when he was wearing a little earpiece and I was talking to him while he was on the water. Pretty much I just said, hit it. All right, let's sort this. New post. And what if I can see who is saying hi from Facebook? I don't know. The format of this is so weird. All right, so Nicolas says 2 to 3 meter waves, depends on the wind angle. That sounds awesome. Can you get some video? I'd love to see some video of you ripping it up and hitting it. Hello, Edwin. Hello, hello. All right, so first up, we got 2 posts from Rasmus. The first is, here are some waves from Sylt, where we do the World Cup. Wind was 20 to 35 knots, side on. Jan took some clips. Thanks, Jan. Inside was medium, and with the current and the wind sheltered, which made it underpowered. Dropping in downwind was difficult due to the lack of sail pressure. Mostly had to come from upwind to get enough push. The wind direction makes me struggle to keep the nose down, bottom turning. I just lose sail pressure turning downwind, lifting the nose, accentuated by rail change using back foot, but that's my surfing influence. I also stay too long at the bottom, not being able to tighten the turn in the later part. What should he work on? And then here we've got the video of it. So I'm just gonna watch the video and then we'll come back to what you say. So let's watch the video. I already watched some of these videos. Again, I read and watch everything that's posted in the group. I don't always respond, but I try to respond. This was just posted. So Erasmus posted a few clips. I know one of them I've already watched, but I don't think I've seen this one. I think the one I watched was a different one. I like this downwind takeoff. That looks not bad. Sylt is very difficult. This spot is not easy, but it can be really fun. This looks like a fun day. So I like this pumping, this active pumping, getting speed. I like that you're sort of staying on the wave. But what I don't want to see is this little sheet in. And you do this in the other clip as well, even more than in this clip. We're going to get to that in a second. So here, as you're coming up to the lip, what you want to do is sheet out even more and lean farther forward rather than this moment here where you start to sheet in and sort of lean back. And that slows you down, puts the brakes on, stops the board from coming up into that high 5 position. So actually you want to do, at this point, the opposite of what you're doing. Really focus on sheeting out even more, really leaning forward to come up to the lip. I mean, you still manage to get the board in a high 5 position, but that moment where you're sheeting in and pulling back slows you down. So let's see what you say. So for me is getting only a little vertical angle going up the wave face, therefore staying too long at the bottom, no tightening off the bottom, turning going up, and being very much on the back foot. Yeah, I mean, some of that's true, but I think the biggest thing you'll see is with that sheeting in, you really don't want to sheet in before going for your cutback. So here you're getting speed. I like the beginning of this. When we're looking at where you are on the wave, we want to think about starting on a power source and going to a power source. You're definitely going to a power source. I like where you're going. You don't have much power from the wave to help you get there, right? So you've got to use the wind because you don't have a peak that you're starting at, right? You're heading towards this one peak. That makes things difficult, but you're able to use the wind. You've got your speed. You're very back-footed, but it's not bad. Things are working, but what I want to see you do here is keep sheeting out and lean even farther forward. Try and touch your face to the water and then come up to the lip. So the issue that with this bottom turn is this moment where you come off the rail, where you lose the arc. You want to think about keeping that consistent arc until you hit the lip. So here, that's the moment you break the turn. You start straightening out. Instead of continuing this bottom turn up into the wave, you stop it. And that's what kills your speed, and it kills you from going more vertical. All right, let me check the chat. So, okay, so you lean back to anticipate the lip push. That makes sense intuitively, but actually, in order to deal with that pushing lip, if you're leaning forward even more, you're going to have more speed. And that just makes it easier. All right, let's watch this wave. I'll see if I can find some video from Silt to compare it to, because that would be really interesting. Silt is a very particular place. I like that a lot. Whoa. This has a lot more speed. And look at this. What I love about this is you're dropping in with a power section, right? So when we're talking about placement on the wave, you want to be at a power source. What does a power source mean? It's a peak on the wave. It's a place on the wave that's generating power, and you want to be going to a power source, right? And so here you're starting, compared to the other wave, on energy, on swell, on energy, right? Imagine if you're surfing, like on the other wave, if you're not windsurfing, just surfing, you wouldn't be able to, like, if we look at this, like, you wouldn't be able to ride this. Whereas this wave, okay, you're a little bit early compared to where you would surf, but you could take off there, right? That's a place where you could surf on a wave. And so it's giving you speed. And then you're able to turn that speed into this dynamic bottom turn and cutback. And this is another good example. Look, you don't do the sheeting in here, right? You're sheeting out quite aggressively. You're leaning. You're still very back-footed, but you never do that sheeting in on the sail, which is not something you really ever want to do. I don't want to say never, because maybe there are times where it makes sense to do it. But in these conditions, which is what we're talking about, you pretty much never, ever, ever want to do it. You want to just keep sheeting out. And it's counterintuitive for some reason. I don't know why it's counterintuitive. Do you guys know why it's counterintuitive? We were talking about this on the masterclass week 2 in Denmark this year, because it was an issue that a lot of people were dealing with. And it's an issue that a lot of people deal with in windsurfing in general. I remember having this conversation with Hans and Tomasz. Nicholas, I think we talked about it as well. And so I'm curious, you guys are in the chat. You've been working on this since September. What has helped you to not do it, to not sheet in? And what helped you understand what that sheeting in was? Because I think that you're not even aware that you're doing it. And in this clip, Rasmus, you're not. And it's why you're able to transfer so much speed from that bottom turn into the cutback. Because as soon as you do that little sheet in and lean back in that bottom turn, it kills your speed, which then kills your cutback. And so this, let's see what you say. I mean, my only thing that I could say is that you could go a little bit more vertical, but it's dynamic. I mean, compared to the other wave, this is awesome. This is awesome. I love this. You could go a little bit later as well. You could go a little bit later. Timing is difficult in Silt. I mean, you're a Silt local, so you know that better than anyone, but it can be difficult to get the timing right there. You often end up going either too early or too late. And with this heavy shore break, you want to be too early rather than too late, because too late, maybe you break your mast. But I like this. I like this. Awesome. Oops. Oh shit. What did I do? Oops. Sorry. We've got to start over. So new posts. All right. All right. Let's get down here. All right. Here we've got this dynamic cutback. Pumping up to speed. There's not really much that this is offering. But I like this. I like this. So a couple things that are good here. One is that you're dropping in on a power source, and two is you're sheeting out through that whole bottom turn. All right, let's watch wave number 2. All right, wave number 2. So Hans is saying in the chat that watching other people go through the issues helps him realize his own. Yeah, so this is difficult because, okay, the bottom turn looks nice in terms of keeping speed, but there's just no wave. There's no wave there. And so much of the bottom turn has to do with the timing and placement. So it's hard to evaluate without that wave. It's hard. Choosing the right waves in this spot is hard. All right. Next up. Yeah, so this is difficult. This reminds me of competing in silt because yeah, there's so many waves like this that are challenging. So this little jump here makes it difficult. Like coming off the fins and then going so soon into your bottom turn, you do a good job of it, but it does make it difficult. Starting going so upwind like this into the turn is also difficult. It feels good because then you have the pressure in the sail. But then you have such a wide arc to do in your bottom turn, and it's really easy to go too far out in front of the wave, which is, I think, one of the big issues here. So one way that I like, a technique that I like to use to keep power in the sail and go into that onshore bottom turn, and it looks cool, is to do a backside carve into the frontside bottom turn. And so what that does is it allows you to go upwind. You've got the power in the sail, which, Rasmus, you're talking about, and then carving around, going into that bottom turn. I've got to find some video of that. I know I have some in here somewhere, but I'll post it after the fact. Let me just write that down. We talked about this a lot on the master classes, backside into frontside. Looks cool. It's also a great technique to do what you're talking about doing, Rasmus. And one of the things that it does is it gets you going into this bottom turn higher on the wave. One of the big problems here is that you're too far in front of the wave, and so then you're losing the speed from the wave, and you don't have the speed from the wind because of the angle to the wind, which makes it so that you're slowing down, and that's not what you want. So if that little backside is a great trick to put in your repertoire, and it doesn't have to be very dramatic, but you do the backside and you do it kind of high on the wave. So then you're starting your bottom turn kind of high on the wave, and you can think about doing the whole bottom turn on the face of the wave, kind of like you would in surfing. I mean, even like a high turn in surfing, not in surfing, sometimes you're coming way down on the bottom, but in this kind of condition, you really want to think about staying on that wave. Here, it's hard because it's kind of barely, which makes it hard to stay on. That's a pretty powerful little section there. So I think you do manage pretty good timing despite everything else that's going on, because if you're too late, then it will kind of munch down on you. and then really leaning forward. So you're still quite upright in these turns, in this turn. See how upright you are on the board. The way I think about it is really leaning over to touch my face to the water. And then you could look, like the trick to going more vertical, doing shorter radius bottom turns, is just wanting to. It's just looking at a spot closer. It's amazing. You just think about it and you do it. All right, let's see what some comments is. So Rich says turn higher on the wave. Yep. 4 seconds in, you hit a bump going down the face. Yeah, we talked about that. Yep. Yeah, I think that kind of fits. All right. Thomas Svensson is saying he goes 90 degrees 3 times up the line, 90 degrees, and down the line 2 times 90 degrees, clue first. I'm not sure I understand that. The first part, I guess I do. If that works for you, awesome, because I think that is a version of what I'm talking about. It's hard for me to think of it in terms of those different angles. All right, let's move on to this post from Galina, who studied the forward loop this summer in Gran Canaria. Cheers from Tarifa. All right, Galina. Whoa, that looks awesome. Definitely studied the forward loop this summer. I like to see it. So just a couple small things. I mean, this is awesome. 90% of windsurfers would be stoked on this forward. It's landed, first of all. It's pretty horizontal. The conditions are pretty wild. That looks like a lot of wind. So good job, first of all. If you want to make it better, the two biggest things for improving a forward, and Galina, what I'm about to say applies to 90, 95, 99% of windsurfers doing forward loops who want to improve. Wider grip and get that head looking back over your shoulder. Wider grip, get that head looking back over your shoulder. And just those two things are like magic, and they help your rotation be more floaty, more lofty, gives you more control, helps you to land more on your board. Is there someone in the chat who over the last 2 years has implemented those two things into their forward loop? So wider grip and head looking back over the shoulder. If so, I want to hear the story. I want to hear the journey. Put it in the chat. Did you do it? And if not, if that's something you know you need to work on and you haven't been doing it, why not? Why not? What is stopping you? Is it that you get into the rotation and you just can't think of anything else? It's just muscle memory takes over. Sorry. Could be. If that's the case, my tip is to do it early. You can do it early. So you do it before you even start rotating. You move that hand back before you even get to the ramp. So that hand is back. That hand is back. Maybe that hand is back for 20 seconds while you're looking for a ramp before you even see a ramp, or maybe you just put it back when you see the ramp, but get it back early so then you don't have to think about that wide grip as you're doing the rotation. The head, okay, you don't want to get your head back that early because then you can't even find the ramps. How are you going to see the ramps, right? If your head is looking back, you're not going to see the ramps. That's not going to work. But you can put that head back as you're going up the ramp. So if we look at this moment here, the head can go back here. The head can even start going back here, like way in the trough as you're coming up to the ramp. And it will feel kind of weird at first because then you're taking off blind. But if you're doing forward loops at this level, it's not going to be catastrophic. And in fact, looking back to the beach is a game changer, because then suddenly you can see where you're going, because the forward loop is a downwind 360. And so if you're looking back to the beach, you're looking in the direction of the rotation, where you're going. Everything makes more sense in the air. You know where you are better. Time slows down. Things seem easier. So if you do that off the ramp, it's a lot easier. If you watch people spinning on a trampoline and they're going to do a 360, their head starts going over their shoulder before they've left the trampoline, right? I mean, maybe expert gymnasts can do it in the air and they go up totally straight. But if for most people, if they do a 360 on a trampoline or just on the ground, this is a good exercise as well. We did this in the Accelerator Club with Dom Dom. Film yourself jumping a 360 just on the ground, on the floor. And I bet you that you're turning your head before your feet leave the floor in order to do that spin. The same thing with the forward loop. So get your head looking behind you before you leave the ramp. Then it has the added benefit of not having to think about it while you're in the air. But two, it's just better. That's just the better dynamic. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Paul Hurley has a video of his own forward loop. Boom, that's a nice forward loop. So he's saying go faster, higher, wait a little longer to pull the trigger. All of these things are true, but I would work on the other things first. I would work on getting the wide grip and the head first, because those are really fundamental. And this is all right, but this is, I think, a step beyond where you are now. So I would say work on getting the wide grip and the head back. Tomasz recommends this link. I haven't checked out yet, but we could check it out. Let's check it out on Instagram. So Jem says, lift and send to nail those forward loops. Send that nose to the sky so then it can go down and around. This is performed by being over the board with a bent back leg. And then you send the nose up by pushing down on it hard. This action, along with lifting up on the boom and extending the arms, will really help you both learn and improve the forward loop. Okay, so let me unpack this and translate it into my language for forward loop coaching. Looking at the photo, let's look at some things. Jem has a wide grip. Look how wide his grip is. Boom, going off the ramp, wide grip. Look, he's not even in the air yet, and what's he doing with his head? He's looking back to the beach. And okay, people say looking back, and some people then they're looking down, or they're looking at their hand or wherever. But what you want to aim for is exactly what Jem is doing here. Looking over the shoulder, over the shoulder. That's super important for controlled horizontal loops. This bit about getting the nose lifted up, I'm not actually sure. I have to think about that. I mean, obviously it works for Jem. He's doing good forwards. I see some people leaning back too much on the forward takeoff. And so you can see here that even though Jem is talking about getting the nose up into the sky, his body is still upright. The body is not leaning back dramatically. And that's important. You don't want to lean back dramatically. And so some of the forward loops that we've looked at where it feels like your head is really spinning fast is because you're leaning back too much and getting that nose up like this, but then the head is not, or the head is not on the axis of rotation. You want your body to be the axis of rotation. So Jem, upright like this with this good technique, the gear is going to rotate around him and he is the axis of rotation. Anyway, so thank you, Tomasz. All right, this is this is from Luca in Italy about saving a surf spot. I think I signed this petition. I signed one of the petitions that Lucas sent me. All right, here's a video that I did. Hey, Max. All right, so Tomasz is asking, where is the center of rotation for a good forward? Or where's the center of rotation? I think it kind of depends, but it's your body, and it's not exactly your vertical body, but pretty close to it. So it kind of feels like your head and your torso are pretty much on that axis of rotation, right? So they're going like this rather than being outside of it and going like that, right? Does that make sense? They're the axle, not the tire. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in my head it does. All right, here's a video that I did for Decline. Don't worry, I'm not a winger now. I'm not getting into winging. I am a purist windsurfer, but that makes it, I think, even more interesting watching me try to learn how to wing foil in one day. I'm not one of those waterman guys who does every sport. I'm such a purist windsurfer. I like to surf. I like to swim in the ocean, but I'm not doing a million different sports and trying to be really good at them. I focused on windsurfing. No problem with people trying to do everything. That's just not me. So it was interesting to try to learn how to wing foil in a day. And I felt like I was really putting my money where my mouth is. That's an expression that we say in English. Walking the talk, because I talk about embracing the beginner mindset a lot in the coaching, and here I'm doing it myself. And it was humbling. I mean, most of all, it was humbling. I suggest you watch the video. I don't want to talk about it too long because you guys just watch the video. The link is here. It's on YouTube. And yeah, it was a great experience. It was a very difficult experience. Difficult to just try and learn so much in such a limited amount of time. But I enjoyed it. Here's a little video of me skateboarding. If you want to see that, it's in the comments there too. The link here, I can post this link I'll post the link in the chat. So here.
The feeling is like I'm a baby. I feel like
all right. Here's the link. All right. Yeah. All right. Close that. Why is that not closing? All right, there we go. All right, next up, we've got a question from Tomasz, who wants to go to Maui in the spring. Sounds awesome. March, April is a good time to come. Yep, accommodation is expensive on Maui. It's gone up a lot over the last 5 years, unfortunately. But if there's a group going, that does help to share costs. Yep, so if anyone else is going or knows something, post it here. All right. Edu has a basic gear question. How big is a 125-liter board for a lightweight 65-kilogram rider, according to James Douglas Windsurf Calculator? I'm not familiar with the James Douglas Windsurf Calculator. Do you guys know the James Douglas Windsurf Calculator? I don't even know what that is. Anyway, he could be comfortably planing with a 6.5 from 14 knots. That's the sweet spot for a 115-liter board or even 100-liter board. Apparently, I've been sailing for years, oversized boards. Can I ditch boards that big without losing low-end performance? What do you think? So this sounds like a free ride question. Is that correct? Are you in the chat, Edu? Because this sounds like a free ride question, which is different than a wave question because the equipment is different and you're dealing with different factors. I'm just assuming based on how this question is asked that it's about free ride boards. For 65 kilograms, I would think that going down to 115 liters or even 100 liters is fine. I would think that there isn't a big advantage to those extra 10 or even 20 liters, given your weight. For a heavier rider, obviously that's not the case, but for your weight, I would guess that is the case. I'm heavier, so I don't have I don't have the experience. Let's see what people say. Alexa says the deciding factor is chop. Especially if the water's choppy, a smaller board is better. Yeah, that makes sense. Alexis likes big boards, small fins. Hans said that his wife noticed the bigger freeride boards are often harder to get planing, especially for lighter people. This is interesting. She weighs 60 kilos and gets up to plane much faster and easier on my 109 rather than the 135. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a good point. So you don't want to go too big either. Cool. So some good comments in here from people that are close to your weight. You do. All right, here's my live stream with the crying baby. Whew, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be there last week, but we're going to do it now. So time to jump in. Meanwhile, there's a comment from Tomasz in the chat I want to look at. He says, I was always thinking about getting the nose up to put the center of rotation higher so that you could make it clean, the forward loop that is, without jumping high with your fin. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what's going on. One of the principles of the forward that I talk about is you go small to tall to ball. And this is especially important for flat water forwards, like when you're on flat water, no waves at all to get height. And you kind of crouch down. And then as you're doing the extension to launch into the forward, you make your body into what feels like an X. And so you're pushing out your arms and your legs to make your body this X. Like, bam, this X. So you're pushing the boom above your head, and then you're pulling yourself into a ball and pulling everything in tight. And so the way that I like to remember that, it's small to tall to ball, small to tall to ball. And in flat water, that tall is an X. It's an X. Your body is stretched out, pushing that rig above you. And it's like you're pushing into all four directions of that X with your feet and your arms to really get that pushing. Dom has a very good point. He says at the takeoff, when you sheet out, it frees the nose up and helps it move downwind. Yeah. So as you're taking off, you do this like a little sheet out, which is involved in this tall motion, and that helps get the nose moving downwind. And then you sheet in, pull everything in super hard, go into the ball, and loop it. All right. We've got a post from Axel. Just try to add Morocco to the group spot. Cool. So this is our Windsurfing Masterclass travel guide that is all, what's the way to say that? It's community run. I don't know how you say that. Anyway, you guys make it. So I don't know what spots are in there, but if you have experience about traveling to a certain spot, whether it's Mauritius or Morocco or Cape Town or wherever, throw it in the group. Everyone should be able to edit this document, be respectful, and yeah, share your experience. And if you're looking to travel somewhere, check it out. My hope is that in a couple of years that this is a really extensive guide. People keep adding to it. All right, Jürgen posted this retexturing of his board. Pretty cool. John is throwing a windsurf party in Denmark on... Did we already miss it, John? I don't know what the dates are. I don't know what the dates are, John. There's no dates. When's your party? It's at the Windsurf Club in Denmark, in Klitmøller. All right, we've got a question from Oliver. What are the most important turns, tacks, heli-tack, jibe, etc. that I use, and when do you apply which? So we have to clarify what situation we're talking about. In the waves, you're mainly looking at 3 different kinds of turns. You're looking at carving jibes, slam jibes, and fast tacks. Of those 3, by far the most important is the fast tack. The fast tack gets you turned around while staying upwind in a very short period of time. You don't lose ground going downwind. If you see a wave coming that you want to catch or get away from, you can turn around quickly. So the fast tack is definitely king for the wave turns. If you're in the waves, the fast tack is king. You use the slam jibe if you want to turn around quickly, but going downwind. And then the carve jibe is really good for jibing onto swell and off of swell. And so those 3 maneuvers are, I think, the most important for wave sailing. I know some people like to use heli-tacks a lot. I don't use heli-tacks myself. I find that I am doing the fast tack most of all, and if I need to stall, then I can do that from a fast tack rather than doing it from a heli-tack. If you're free riding, I think the carve jibe is probably the pinnacle transition, or the duck jibe. Duck jibes also look really, really cool. Dom's asking me if I ever get backwinded in forward loops. No, actually, I don't think so. I do. Do you guys? All right, Leonardo says, hey guys, last gear question. All right, so I don't know about these boards, but you guys do. There's 10 comments here, which is cool. So let me just ask Leonardo if, is this enough information to make your decision? If not, what other details would you want to know? Cool. Because I don't know about those boards, but I can do some research and find out or ask people who have them. But this is one of the great things about the group. The group is so big now. We're almost at 5,000 people that if you ask a question about the Goya custom quad 79 versus 84, there are going to be people in the group who have those boards and they can give you an answer. So use the group for questions like that. Here is more from Jorgen's board project. Looks pretty cool. All right, next up. Ogus is saying that he sees some people doing half heli-tacks, getting backwinded and staying slowly upwind, facing coming waves to read them better. Yeah, so that's what I'm calling a stall. And so it's a way to get into that stall where you're kind of backwinded, you're not really moving, and that stalled position allows you to kind of just sit and wait and kind of watch. And I'll get into that stalled position, but after attack or in attack, I just find that more comfortable myself. By the way, Ogus, have you been getting on the water? Do you have any new footage? We talked about some of your questions. When was that? A few weeks ago. Did that help? All right. Let's watch this from Ephemios, who's 42 and last year decided to attempt the forward loop. Cool. Turn the music off so we don't have issues with copyright. Okay, so awesome that you're going for it. I love to see going for it. There are a few different factors here that come into play. Takeoff looks Good. Maybe a little bit late for this ramp. It looks like the wave is kind of breaking on you, which might mess you up. You come out of the foot straps pretty early in this rotation. Maybe because of the way the wave was breaking. I'm not sure. I want to see the head looking over the shoulder like we're talking about. That photo of Gem Hall that Tomasz posted in the other thing. Here it is. We still have it. This is a pretty good example of what you want to be doing off the wave. Gem Hall also does coaching. This is from his Instagram, Gem Hall Coach on Instagram. And this is pretty cool. I want to get Gem. I know Gem. I want to get him on the coaching. I want to get lots of coaches, other coaches on the coaching on the Sunday night discussion and interview them and talk about their methods. Anyway, this is Gem Hall, and this is how he goes into the forward. This is a very good photo to show the elements of what you want to be doing going into the forward off the ramp. So if we look at that photo and we compare it to this still image, so we want to see maybe a little bit of a wider grip, but actually the grip is pretty wide. But I want to see your head looking back, and I want to see the sail pushing up more, which helps unweight it, helps it feel lighter, and then that helps you pull in on it really hard without feeling like you're getting flung by a catapult. And will help make it so that you're not going so vertical. But the head is really, really important, as well as pushing with that front arm. Again, you want to think about twisting. You want to think about twisting. So don't think about somersaulting. Think about twisting and really sheeting in hard. This starts to be scary where you're looking forward instead of looking over your shoulder, and you're not sheeting in hard enough. And then your body and head starts to go into your mast and sail. That's kind of scary. You want to always be thinking about being under the sail. Tavi says that the straps are maybe too tight. And looking at the footage, I think that is a good insight from Tavi. So in my forward loop course, which I am revamping, I'm going to post it. So remember I said at the beginning of this whole coaching that we're going to move the Patreon onto a different platform. And on that platform, I'm going to have the courses that I've already made. So the forward loop course, the fast tack course, as well as the new courses, the Vulcan course. I've got some wave sailing fundamental courses. Anyway, so all of this stuff will be online at some point in the new year. The platform will be online before January 1st. Whether all the courses are on there by then, I'm not sure. It depends. But anyway, one of the key aspects of the forward loop that we go over in the forward loop masterclass is the foot strap width. And you want to be able to get your foot in the foot strap. If you just have your toes in the foot strap, you don't have control over the board. This is true for wave sailing, it's true for freestyle, and it's true for forward loops. You want to get that foot in the board. And the way that I like to think about it, I've talked about this a lot on the stream, you want the foot strap to be tight on the sides, loose on the top. So it's narrow but tall, like that. So you can get your foot in there, but the foot isn't swimming in there because the straps aren't super wide, and that gives you control over the board. If you have just your feet, just your toes in the foot strap, you don't have that control. It's more dangerous. You come out more easily, and you don't have control over the board. So that's a great observation from Tavi. Then getting the head back and then really thinking of it. So if I were to identify 4 things to work on, one is the foot straps. Get them tight and tall so you can get your foot a lot more in there. And I've got a video about setting up foot straps. You can check that out on YouTube. Use that as a starting point. Sail around. So before you try your first forward with a new foot strap setup, sail around to get comfortable, because it will feel weird. If you've sailed for however many decades with your toes only in the foot strap, and then suddenly you're getting your whole foot in the foot strap, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel weird. Don't try forward loops while it still feels weird. Give yourself some sessions to get used to it. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is think of the forward loop like a twist. And that means that you're using your body, you're using your shoulders, you're using your torso to twist. Because if you film yourself on the floor, on the ground, on the hard ground in your kitchen, jumping up and doing a 360-degree spin, you're going to notice that your shoulders don't stay lined up with your knees. Your shoulders are going to start leading the rotation, and your hips and your knees are going to follow. It's the same thing with the forward loop. So you want to get that upper body guided by the head, looking back and downwind. And so what we see when we go through this is that your shoulders and knees and hips and everything stay all pointing the same direction. You want those to be disjointed. So let's see if we can find. I have a video somewhere. Here's a forward loop. Let's see if I get disjointed here on the takeoff. It goes slow motion later on. Hold on. Okay. A little bit of a weird takeoff. You can see I'm looking back. So it's kind of hard to see actually on this one, but my shoulders are starting to point this way, like the line of my mouse, and my knees are pointing this way. Something like that. So it is a little bit disjoint, but there are better examples of this, but it feels a lot more disjoint than it looks. Anyway, so that's point 2. Point 3 is with the takeoff, and it's hard for me to tell with this video, but you want to make sure that the wave isn't breaking on you and then disrupting whatever's happening. So really paying attention to how you're taking off. All right, so what are the points? The foot straps, twisting as guided by the head, the ramp, and then another thing to work on is doing the small to tall to ball. And as you're tall, you're sort of shooting out the sail, which will help depower it for a second so that then you can get it positioned to really sheet in and pull in. Because here it looks like it's really powered up the whole time, which then is what really launches you forward in this kind of catapult. So those are the 4 main things. All right. This is a cool video of Ricardo getting launched on the rocks or getting smashed on the rocks. Yeah, all right, let's check it out. So he's on this wave. He goes for a 360, crashes. The mast breaks. Looks like the mast breaks right there. And then he's holding on. It's hard when you've got a broken mast. Now, what's kind of interesting about this, it looks like the tide is really low. Normally, when we go on the rocks at Hokipa, it's in this area, and the farther upwind you are, the easier it is to come off them. So he's very downwind. And in fact, if you don't have a broken mast, often you can sort of, if you get stuck in these rocks, just kind of swim down here, and then the water is sucking out, and you can kind of come off of the rocks. But it depends how big the waves are, what's going on. And then here he just gets pounded on the rocks. I have a different technique for dealing with whitewater when I'm on rocks, which is to try to jump on top of the oncoming whitewater, always with my feet pointing in the direction of the beach, so that it's never that my head is getting pushed into a rock, for example. But like with a big whitewater like this, and then you're trying to like balance on a rock, you're never gonna be able to keep yourself on the rock. And so what I do is I like jump as high as I can, kind of on top of the whitewater, and try and kind of ride the whitewater in, as flat as possible, like keeping my body flat, really trying to be aware of where I am relative to the rocks, and with my feet facing the beach to try and get in, like letting the whitewater kind of just hit you like this. I mean, here he goes on his back, but I like to jump up a little bit. Like this seems a little bit scary. You can see, you know, that he's coming into those rocks. I mean, it's gnarly. That can be gnarly. But then here he's in farther, and it's kind of safer. And then what you always want to do is pay attention to the whitewaters that are coming. So always want to have an eye looking back out to sea. All right. Juso did this post about gear storage, which is pretty cool. And so we can see different storage options that people have. I like this. Boards on the ceiling, boards in the stairs, boards with the books, boards in the cave. Some people keep them in the car. Some people keep them in the garage. One thing that is important is for most sails, you want to store them with the luff down, not the other side, because then you can crush the film that's on the clew if you store them clew down. This is a cool setup from Adrian with the pipes to keep them off the ground, keep them dry. It's a nice gear garage. This is my shed in Maui, which is missing some gear because this photo was taken after I'd left. But I've got my boards, and then sails are up here, and masts are here, booms and harnesses, broken stuff. Paul, you guys know Paul from the live stream, helped me organize this on Maui. Yeah, we got some different setups. It's cool seeing how people do it. All right, like that, I think we are caught up somehow. All right, we are caught up. So let me answer a few of these questions. So Ogu said that you guys have had south winds in Turkey and tried his new boards. Nice. Eric asked about the Hookkeeper rocks. Are they sharp or round? They're not super sharp. They're not lava rocks, but they have sharp shells that live on them that can cut you. And there are some sharp parts to the rocks, but mostly, I mean, there are some sharp rocks there, but most of the rocks are not sharp. They're not as soft. I mean, no rocks are soft, but as Pozo rocks. So if you've been to Pozo, where the rocks are just perfectly round and they don't have any edges, that's not what it's like. The rocks do have edges, but they're not jagged, sharp lava edges. And so occasionally there will be a place that has a sharp edge, but what cuts you are the shells. There are sharp shells. Sonny Garcia is said to have smoothed out his loco reef at low tide with a sledgehammer. That's pretty funny. Am I going to do more onshore Maui training like Brazinho? Probably not. I like Hogipa. Ogu says, isn't it better to face your back like he does rather than facing your torso and harness hook towards the rocks under? Yes. And when I talk about jumping on the whitewater, like I jump up facing, because I always want to be looking at the whitewater as long as I can. But so I jump up facing the whitewater, but then I twist in the air to land on my back, sort of on top of the whitewater, and then ride it sort of on my back with the feet going into the beach. And you can practice that in the shore break. You can practice that in places where there are no consequences. Like I used to spend a lot of time as a kid and whatever playing in pretty heavy shore breaks on Maui. And so I have a certain understanding of where my body is going to be when that whitewater hits. And there are a lot of places in Europe where you can do that too. And I think putting in that practice helps make you comfortable when you are in a situation that you don't want to be in, like where you're getting washed on rocks. Thomas is saying that Brazinho trains Port Tech on Maui's west side. Yeah, it's actually where he's going is more on the south. Where is that? It's like the it's really south. It's like the south side. I guess it's southwest. Very, very south. I would call it more the south coast where those videos are from. And it's very hard to get to in terms of like four-wheel drive off-roading. But yeah, the videos are sick. The last one that he posted was pretty awesome. So Oliver is asking, how long did it take to learn the fast tack? It's such a difficult turn on the wakeboard in the open ocean. It's insane. He gets like 40%. It is difficult for sure. We did a fast tack online course, and I'm going to be posting that on the new website. So hopefully that is also part of what's going online in January. If not, it'll be soon. So check out Oliver. I don't know if you're in the Facebook group. I'll post once all that stuff anyway is online. I'll post it on links to it on the YouTube. But I think that's a pretty good resource for learning the fast tack. We have a few people in the chat that did the course, and I was really impressed seeing the improvement. So some of the people on the fast tack course, which again was all virtual, was all online, were also in Denmark. So Matt was there, Cedric was there, and I was really impressed with the tacks. Great tacks, and I could really see the pieces being put together, which gave me a lot of confidence in the material. So I'm going to put that online. That might be useful for you. Otherwise, you can do a post in the Facebook group, and if you have a specific issue, then it's something that I can help you with. We can talk about it on the live stream that either next week or the week after or whenever, or the other people in the community have a lot of positive things to add to any conversation. And that's the best part of this whole thing that we are doing together with the Facebook group and this coaching is you guys and the community. There's so much knowledge, there's so much gold. And I love one of this parts of this process that I love is like when I teach something and I teach it in the live stream or in one of the masterclass weeks or in one of the virtual courses, and then I see that information being transformed and massaged into a new form, right? Because I express myself one way, but going through that learning process with a group helps translate what I'm saying into everyone's particular language. And it's one reason that I really love these cohort-based courses. So the TAC course, it's not like I'm just putting videos online and you're looking at the videos. Like how we did the course the first time, and we'll do it again, is you go through it with a class of people and you're learning it with other windsurfers around the world at the same time. You're working on it together, dealing with the same problems together. And I think that's a really effective learning method. And so we're going to keep embracing that going forward. Thomas is saying that he got good progress trying port in Sweden this year. Interesting. Eric is saying that Oliver, you might want to look at getting a big board or getting on a big board in light wind, playing around, going backwind. It will force you to move the sail correctly. Good advice. Good advice, not just for Oliver, but for everyone. Big board, small sail, light wind, work on tacks, heli tacks, duck jibe, duck tacks, sailing on the lee side, sailing backwinded. All of these skills really help your windsurfing, whether you're in the waves or whether you're free riding. Huge benefit to learning those skills. And that's really the only time that you can learn them. Big board, small sail, light wind. Perfect. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Post your questions, comments, all of the above in the group. Thomas is asking before we go, where are the water stretches? That's the best tip ever. I don't know what you're talking about, Thomas. Which water stretches? We talked about some stretching stuff, but I want to know exactly what you mean. Message me, post it in the group, and I'll try and find what you're talking about, Thomas. All right, guys, I'm signing off. Have a good week. Have a good Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, that's coming up this week. And I'll see you next week, Sunday. Take care. Have a good week. I hope it's windy. I hope you get on the water. Bye.